Okay, so let's have some festive knitting. We should have some cream wool, some chocolate wool, some conifer wool and some scarlet wool. This will create your pudding. So first of all, grab your chocolate yarn. That's what you're going to use first. So if you just pull it out, get it ready, make sure that your tail is facing to the left hand side and you're wanting to create a slip knot. So to do that, you're just pulling it over, popping your 2 fingers through, and remember to always work towards the working yarn, which is the rest of your yarn on the ball. So to create the slip knot, you just pull that through and tighten, and it should create what is called a slip knot, which is basically just a knot. Okay, then you're just going to start grabbing the wool to create another loop, and you're going to do that for 14. So all you're doing is just grabbing the working yarn, pulling through to create a new loop. Each loop will be created and then you'll have 14 in total. This is basically just called casting on at this point. And it should just look like a braid. So if you just count the sides, see how many you've got, you should have 14, and at that point you want to stop. Okay, so now you're just wanting to put this into a circle now. So to do that, you're just going to find your first stitch and pull it as close as you can to where you're working at the moment. And you're finding that top stitch to go through. So if you just pop your fingers through that one, grab the working yarn and pull through a new loop. And at that point you should have 2 loops and you've joined it together to create a circle. Then you're just going to go round the whole circle or through each stitch, and remember not to miss out any stitches at this point, and pull through a new loop. So just keep working round the circle. This is the way that you're going to work for the rest of your pudding, which is just working it in a circle, and you're just going to go anti-clockwise around the circle. So when you get back to the start, which is where you've already got a loop through, you want to go through that stitch again. So not through the loop itself, but through the stitch that you put that last one through, just to create an extra one in that point. Okay. Then you're just going to continue round, so just keep going round in circles, pulling through a loop through each of the loops that you've already created. Just keep going round. And to find out where you started, so your starting point is always where your tail is hanging from. So that is where the end of that row is. So if you came to the pumpkin class back in October, you will know the rhythm of this, except for it's all just the knit and stitch. We don't have to worry about any indents or anything like that. So if anything, this should be easier for you guys. So just keep going round, and you want to make it so that it's 4 rows in total. You can see it's starting to form now, and you can see the stitches where you can start counting them. So at the moment I have 2, and I'm just going to keep going round until I have 4. So just keep going round, keep going, just pulling through a new loop through the loop that you've created on the last row to create another row. And remember, the end of your row is where your tail is hanging at the bottom. So we're almost there. I think this is the last row for this one. And then what we will do after this is connect the cream wool to create the top, which is the cream over the top. There we go. So now we can see that we've got four rows there, and we're going to stop with the brown now, so we can cut that away. So you can cut it quite close. You don't need to leave really that much, but just enough to be able to make a knot for your cream wool. Okay, so if you get your cream wool now and just get that ready to go, and then all you're going to do is create a small knot on the inside. So where all your purl stitches are, you want to create a knot as close as you can to your stitch. Just pull it in really closely and then just cut away any excess wool on the knot. And then at this point, remember that you're working anti-clockwise. You're going to pull the wool round so that it's facing anti-clockwise to continue knitting. And at this point, you just want to make sure that your knot is sitting at the back and not at the front of your pudding. And then at this point, you're just going to continue round anti-clockwise, pulling through loops, but it'll be your cream wool now. And you'll just continue this all the way round and create 3 rows of the cream. And you will slowly start to see it forming and coming together to be a pudding. It's hard to visualise at the start when you start to knit it up, but it really does start to come together at this point. So keep going round. This is the second row that I'm doing. And I hope you all have a glass of fizz in your hand. It is Christmas after all. So yeah, just keep going round. And now I'm on to the third row. So you can see now that was where the end of that row was, because it goes from 2 to 3. Now we're on 3. Okay. And just try and keep all your stitches as neat as you can. Try not to make them too loose, because 1, you might run out of wool, and 2, you don't want any of the stuffing to be poking through the edges when you're finished. There we go. So now we've got 3 rows of the cream. Okay. So it'll be 4 in the chocolate and 3 in the cream. Okay. So now what you want to do is just cut away any excess wool. So we need enough to be able to pull it all together at the top. So do keep a good length on it. Don't make it too short, otherwise you'll not be able to finish off the top. So if you head to the bottom now, just turn it upside down to the chocolate, and all you're doing here is you're going to pop it from the inside out. No, sorry, from the outside in, excuse me. From the outside in, all the way around the loops on the bottom. So you can see them there. All you're doing is just going to pop them from the outside in. Okay. And as you're doing it, just slightly pull at it and bunch together all the bits that are starting to gather. Don't be too rough because you don't want it to snap, which is possible because it's just a fibre. But just enough to be able to pull it together ever so slightly. And you will start to see it closing. So remember, outside in, you're just pulling it through each of the stitches on the bottom. And it will now just start to close over as such. If you find that you're still ending up with any sort of hole at the bottom, just try and pull it that ever bit more. Still be gentle with it, but just pull it ever so more. Then all you're doing is going to pop it through the middle so that the excess wool is on the inside, and then you can just tie a knot on the inside or just tuck it in, weave it in at the bottom. But if you tie a knot, it's going to be more secure. So now if you want to head to the top where the cream is, and remember it's anti-clockwise, and we're just going to go from the inside out this time. So through each of the loops, you're just going to pull it all the way through. We're not creating any loops now. You're just pulling it all the way through each of the loops. And again, you're just going to ever so slightly pull it as you're going. And this is going to just close the top of your pudding. Don't close it completely at this point because we still need to stuff it as well. So just, you'll be able to pull it tighter once all the stuffing is inside. Okay, so remember, inside out for the top. And just pull it all the way through, and you can see it starting to gather. Just remember not to pull too tightly at this point because we still need to stuff it. Okay, so once you've got all the loops now, okay, we're now needing to stuff it. So if you find your stuffing, I do apologise, I had to grab mine at this point because I forgot to add it into my kit. Here we are, so we're just going to stuff it in here. And you can have it as full or as not full as you want, but the fuller that you have it, the more firm it will become. Okay, so at this point you're just wanting to pull it to close the centre. So just pull the working yarn and it will start to gather at the top. Okay, so now you'll be left with just a very small hole at the top, and your excess wool can just, so if you go through the next 2 stitches, that's what I've done there, it just creates a bit of a better shape. Then your excess wool, all you're going to do is cut away just to 15 centimetres or so, then pull it apart to 2 pieces, and you're just going to create a knot. If you do your knot very tightly, you'll never see it, and you're just going to stuff it inside. And you can pull out any of these stitches to hide any knots that you've created, okay? So now at this point, you're wanting to put the holly leaves on, which is just very simple. All you're doing is getting your green yarn, and you're just going to group it together to make like a very loose bow, if you like. But again, it's that M shape. and you're just going to cut away any excess of that. And it does just look like a bow at this point, but without it knotted together. And you're just going to pop in the middle into the centre of your pudding. Okay, and you can have this as neat or as messy as you like at this point. They will still be like holly leaves. Okay, so now if you get your red yarn, and what you're going to do is create pom-poms for the cherries. Okay, so all you're doing is just gathering it together. So I create an M shape, as you can see here. Okay, and you're just going to grab it in the middle and group it together. Then you're going to get your string and put it round the centre and just tie a knot as tightly as you can in the centre. Okay. There's many ways to make pom-poms, but to me this is the easiest way to do it, the most sustainable way to do it. There's no waste or anything. So now you just cut away the loops. So if you've got any loops in there, which you will, just cut them away so that they're all loose, and you're just going to now fluff it out, fluff all the fibres out. So just pull it apart in a circular motion around the pom-pom. You can have this as fluffy or non-fluffy as you like. If you want them to be bigger, just add more to that M shape at the start, or if you want them smaller, you wouldn't even make the M, it would be an N. Okay, so now you've got it at this point, you're now just going to start shaving it. So just grab your scissors and you're just going to work in a circular motion around your pom-pom. And just keep working around it. So basically all you're doing now is just to make it a bit neater. You're just working round the pom-pom to take away any longer pieces, so that it's less, so it's more neat. Okay. So just snip away any bits that are sticking out. Don't go too close because you don't want to be taking any chunks out, but just shave around the edges all the way around your pom-pom, and you will start to see it form. And I do apologise at this point, my daughter decided to join in. Yeah, so just keep snipping away any excess around the pom-pom. And just keep working it in a circular motion. If you turn it just using the string, if you just turn it as you're working, you will start to create that sphere shape. Okay. So you can see it now starting to come together. It just needs a little bit more off and we will be done with our pom-pom. And it's totally up to you how many pom-poms you would like to have on the top. If you want to make them smaller and create more inside the top, then that's absolutely fine. Otherwise, you can make them bigger and just have one. It's really down to preference, but there's plenty there for you to make a few if you wish. But you can see this now starting to get neater as you take away the excess. So you can see now it looks like a pom-pom. So just with the excess string, you're just going to pop that inside the middle. Now, if you have a glue gun, you can glue this together. I do glue mine just to make sure that they're secure, but that's totally up to yourself. You don't need that. Just never pick it up from the middle. I really hope you all enjoyed this and I would love to see your creations. Have a nice Christmas.